Hello, it's April 28th, and this is Willie from the Ozarks, and we are going to do lesson 118 in A Course in Miracles workbook for students today. Before we get too into it, let's just read the title. What I said 118, yes, God's peace and joy are mine. That's a review, which 118 is a review of lesson 105 and 106. 105 being God's peace and joy are mine, and lesson 106, let me be still and listen to the truth. Let me be still and listen to the truth. All right. Before we actually read it, I would like to talk briefly about yesterday's lesson. God being love is also happiness. I seek but what belongs to me in truth. God being love is also happiness. Let me remember, love is happiness. Love is happiness. You know, if you do something that's loving, it's going to make everybody involved happy, or it has the potential to. It truly is making everyone happy if it's love. Whether or not everyone's aware of it. Now that may or is interpreted as love, but that's in a world of illusion and separation, which we don't live, do we? Don't we live in a world of heaven, grace, present reality, where God is, where we are, where all of our brothers and sisters are, where happiness is, where love is? Let me remember, love is happiness, and nothing else brings joy. Only love brings us happiness. Only love brings us joy. And so I choose to entertain no substitutes for love. No substitutes. Anything that comes up that makes me unloving is going to take my joy away. And if we really believed that, we would never, ever do anything that was not loving. So let's start remembering that God being love is also happiness. All of our acts that are following God are acts of love, which are acts of joy. I seek but what belongs to me in truth. This is what we want. I seek but what belongs to me in truth. The realization that love and happiness are one, and that God wants us to have that. He's given us. He's created us that way in our inception and our beingness. Love is my heritage, and with it joy. These are the gifts my Father gave to me. I would accept all that is mine in truth. I seek but what belongs to me in truth. Love is my heritage, and with it joy. These are the gifts my Father gave to me. I would accept all that is mine in truth. We want that joy. We want the power to be ourselves, to be loving. Okay, so I trust that in your lesson yesterday, and if you haven't, I encourage you to pause the recording and take a moment to do a final meditation before you start the next day. Hand off the baton, bring in the lesson. Make sure you did the lesson best you can. And if you've already done it best you can, you're ready for the next lesson. That's what we're here for. But I just wanted to kind of give you an encouragement about what you just learned. God being love is also happiness. Man, this is huge. Most people don't even think that God is happiness. I bet everybody's come to understand that he's love, but they're not realizing that love and happiness go hand in hand. They're so entrenched in the ideas of sacrifice that they still think that happiness is apart from love. But what we want to learn is that love and happiness are one. That's the only way it can ever be love. Okay, now I know we read the first, I think it was 13 or 12 principles of miracles. But I want to go back and look at a couple of them a little deeper. Number 4, this is in the text at the beginning. All miracles mean life. and God is the giver of life. His voice will direct you very specifically. You will be told all you need to know. My question on that one is, are you listening? Number 5, miracles are habits and should be involuntary. They should not be under conscious control. Consciously selected miracles can be misguided. They should be so much a part of your life that you don't even realize that you're offering them. That's what it means not be conscious control. It's just who you are. You're a miracle worker. And you're always praying. We're going to look at that in a minute, because every thought's a prayer. Every feeling's a prayer. Whether you conceptualize it with the thought that you're aware of or not, you still had a desire. And that's a prayer. Listen to Abraham Hicks for more information on that. Okay, lesson 6. Miracles are natural. When they do not occur, something has gone wrong. It's kind of like the same thing we were just talking about, isn't it? Miracles are natural. They're just part of who you are. And just let yourself bubble out. Remember I talked about the fountain. Jesus talked about the fountain. I'm just repeating what he said 2,000 years ago, that I'll make you a fountain that'll never run dry. We just bubble out miracles all day long. And we desire miracles all day long. We desire God's essence, and we want to give God's essence. Number 7. Miracles are everyone's right. Miracles are everyone's right. But what's necessary first? Purification. It said miracles are everyone's right, but purification is necessary first. Well, what is purification? Well, that might be one that you want to contemplate a little bit, but basically it's removing the concept that you're separate. Remove the guilt. Purify yourself from the idea that some people are wrong sometimes. Feel the joy of God in every perception. Otherwise, and as you do that, you will become an unstoppable miracle worker. All right? Miracles are everyone's right, but purification is necessary first. And 8, miracles are a form of healing. They supply a lack. They're performed by those who temporarily have more for those who temporarily have less. Well, miracles are a form of healing. I pray that something better happens, and what comes forth is the better happening. So the whole idea here, miracles are a form of healing. Well, as we as miracle workers walk the world, we see a lack. And we want to supply a lack. They supply a lack, and they are performed by those who temporarily have more for those who temporarily have less. So our prayer is that we see someone hurting, and we don't even consciously say, God, help me to help this person. You just feel it, and all of a sudden the universe bends, and what you do helps. And you might not even be the one physically moving anything to help that person, and yet they may get a whole new house. But it comes from a whole different direction that you assisted by your prayer, your desire for love to be expressed. Miracles are a kind of exchange. Like all expressions of love, they are always miraculous in the true sense. The exchange reverses the physical laws. They bring more love both to the giver and the receiver. What's the physical law? Well, what he's saying is that in the physical world, it does appear like if you give something that you don't have it now, and that they do have it. But he says miracles reverse that law. And they do. What they supply a lack. And where is that? Right? Like all expressions of love, which are always miraculous in the true sense, the exchange reverses the physical laws. They bring more love both to the giver and the receiver. So as you give, you're going to receive. That's a law that's not understood in what we call this world, the world of time and space, certain laws that we think that have to be, but we're starting to realize that this world is controlled by a higher world that actually controls it. That's why we do miracles. Things that normally would take thousands of years, we do them instantly. All right? We're becoming miracle workers. All right, now let's go to our lesson. Lesson 118. God's peace and joy are mine. Let me be still and listen to the truth. Before we actually read it and talk a moment about it, look what I've got. This is a yellow pear tomato. It's an heirloom. My good friend who crossed over last year, Jerry, is the one who taught me about yellow pear tomatoes. They're a small tomato, a little bigger than a cherry tomato maybe, but not much. And a really small tomato, and they're yellow, and they shaped like a pear. And they're very prolific. One plant just loaded with pears, and they're pear tomatoes. And they're very tasty. And anyway, Jerry had those growing every year in his garden out here. He was my school teacher, lived in here with me, and he left this world last March. It was, I think, maybe in the last day of the month, but last day or two of the month, right here in the house with me. He had some kind of several physical disabilities. Of course, I think he was, how old was Jerry? 88? I thought maybe that was when the virus was just coming out too, and I thought, well, maybe the virus got him. But he was getting weak, and he was on hospice. But well, what a wonderful thing! I want to tell you one of the things. He heard the music playing before he actually crossed, and he told me about it. That'd be a story I could tell you sometime. Not today. We just get our lesson. 118. 118 for morning and evening review. God's peace and joy are mine. Today I will accept God's peace and joy in glad exchange for all the substitutes which I have made for happiness and peace. Let's look at that again. God's peace and joy are mine. Today I will accept God's peace and joy in glad exchange for all the substitutes which I have made for happiness and joy. So all the things that you thought were going to bring you happiness and joy, but not everybody was benefited, not everybody was loved in order for you to move forward. It was just some idol you made up. Time to let it go for true happiness and peace. And 106, that was 105 review. 106 review is, let me be still and listen to the truth. Let mine own feeble voice be still, and let me hear the mighty voice of truth itself assure me that I am God's perfect Son. Wow. Let me be still and listen to the truth. Let mine own feeble voice be still. Be still, be quiet. Let your ego mind be still. And let me hear the mighty voice of truth, the Holy Spirit's voice within us. Let us hear his mighty, powerful voice. Assure me that I am God's perfect Son. That's what God's strong voice is going to tell you, that you're God's perfect child, perfect daughter, perfect son. That's who you are. And being perfect, well, then you know that God being love is also happiness, and that you seek what belongs to you in truth. God's peace and joy are yours. Just let yourself be still and hear that. Listen to the truth. God's peace and joy are mine. Today I will accept God's peace and joy in glad exchange for all the substitutes which I have made for happiness and peace. Let me be still and listen to the truth. Let mine own feeble voice be still, and let me hear the mighty voice of truth itself assure me that I am God's perfect Son. God's peace and joy are mine. Let me be still and listen to the truth.